Welcome. We're going to do a full demo of Channergy, starting with orders, getting into customers, and then inventory, listing on channels, purchasing, receiving. A lot to cover here. We're going to move pretty quickly so that you can pause wherever you need to. And we're going to try to cover most uses. So if there's something that it's not important to you, you can fast forward through it. But we encourage you to watch the whole thing. So let's start with orders. When I click the orders button, that'll take me to an order history. And here you can see all orders you've entered for all time because I'm in the demo. Typically, though, an operator would be logged in and just see their orders for that day. A manager can look at all orders, orders for a specific operator by channel. Maybe you want to see your Amazon orders. You can do it for a different date range. So we're assuming here that you're entering orders by hand. You're taking an order maybe on the phone, but it's valuable to watch this even if you're just getting orders from your channels, because this will show you how the order system works. For channel orders, you can go in and modify orders. Maybe a customer calls and they want to add something or create a new order. So just to know how it works and to be able to make those changes if you need to, it's worth watching. So I'm going to click the Take an Order button here on the left to start an order process. Now, I can create a new customer if I want, or I can search for one on as few or as many of these fields as I like. If I get a match, I can double click it or click Next. If not, you can click Add Customer and create the account with what you've already keyed so you don't have to rekey it. Now, I'm just going to use John Smith here. This is John's billing address, his shipping. You can have as many shipping as you like. I'll show you how that works in a moment. His contact information, phone, email, etc. Whether he wants to be notified by text, which you can set up in Channergy so you can email them and text them. This, again, you can fill out as little or as much as you like, and when you're ready to proceed, just click Next. That will take you to the order screen. Now, again, if I were logged in, my operator ID would be grabbed automatically, so I'm just going to be Joe here for the demo. If this order was coming from another source like your Amazon store, eBay, your own web store, you can have those pre-built. I have an Amazon one preset here, for example, and they'll just automatically assign. So again, I'm going to be Joe for the demo. If you use source keys, promo codes, codes on catalogs, that kind of thing, you can enter them here. You can actually have two source keys that can be opened up in preferences if you need them. And these are used for just tagging where an order came from. In addition to telling you that, though, the key can also do things like apply discounts, free gifts, etc. And the first key that's assigned to an order becomes the customer's original key. And that's important because maybe it's a loss leader or they didn't buy much. But if they keep coming back, then that ad found you a buying customer, and therefore it could be worthwhile after all. If you have multiple companies, you can pull them down here and choose which company that order is coming from. That can also be automatically selected based on various criteria. Who's entering the order, what channel it came from, what products got added to the order. Those can all change the company. And Channergy will dynamically change the invoice, packing slips, etc. to show the right company name. This is the billing address we saw on the previous screen. This is the shipping. I could type a different shipping address, or if it imported with a different shipping address, it would show here, and all of those are stored in history. So we have all the different addresses the customers used. You can select it here, or you can use it for reporting, etc. These notes will update as I go through the order. You'll see that happen. You can type your own notes if you like on the order. You can also type notes to and from the customer, which I'll show you in a little bit, and we'll talk about dropship later too. When you're ready to enter products, you can key them, you can scan them. We have a nice search utility. You can click the little ellipsis button here or just press the F2 key to open that up. And this you can design. So if you want to customize the layout, you can, but this is pretty much the full layout of it. You can search by product number, description, long description. You can search across all of those at the same time with a common word. For example, doors, both here in the product number and here in the description. If you want to add an item right from here, you can. Just click it and say Add to Order. You can do a lot more, though. If you want to get details about it, you can either right-click it or press the F2 key to view details. That will take you to a read-only version of the product screen where you can see a lot more detail about the product. You can lock down some of this, so if you don't want operators, for example, to see all the prices, they would just see the retail price. Check preferences for those. The most common use for this, though, is the Attachments tab, because here you can attach whatever you like. Images, they'll show up right up in the interface. Word docs, PDF docs, web pages, etc. Those will all open up in their native program. So that means your operators have access to a lot of information when they're talking to the customer. Just close it to drop back into the order, and you can select more items and add them. Note that you have details about the product here, including how many are in stock. These custom fields can be renamed to whatever you want. They show up here so they can give you more detail. Here's a long description. So you don't really have to go into that view we just saw unless you need it, but it's nice to have it. You can change the quantity you add to the order. You can also add with customization. And with customization, you have a couple of options. You have a memo field that's unlimited in length, maybe pre-populated like this. You can edit it, change it, or maybe blank. You could just type into it. So typically it's used for things like instructions, or like we saw earlier, size and color was listed there. If you have personalization set up, you can have up to 20 fields that are discrete. And what that means is you can add like name, address, stuff that you'd use for personalization or monograms, etc. Maybe you engrave items and you need discrete fields to push over to your software for engraving. This is where the operator would be prompted to collect that. So when you add with customization, you can do either one or both of those. I think this one might have customization on it, just to give you an example what those look like. It does. So it's automatically pulling the first name, the phone number, and we created a note field so the operator can type a note in there. So if that's relevant to you, you can do that at the product level. When you're done here, when you're done adding to the order, you can click OK to drop out. Just a couple quick things before we do that though. You can limit your search by supplier or more commonly product type. Like this is a cell phone database. Maybe I just want to look at accessories. If you sell vehicle or car parts, etc., you can do year, make, and model. You can also have that preset at the customer level and just pull down what their car is, so it'll reduce the universe to what they can use in their vehicle. Subproducts are similar to that as for anybody. So it's typically, this is a cell phone database. I'll choose a BlackBerry. Typically for size, color, etc. So in this case, I'm going to use a BlackBerry Silver, and it's a model Pearl. And now that will limit it down to that one item. There's also a subproducts utility for creating those in mass very quickly, anything with options. You can find that. We'll look briefly at it later in the demo, but you can find it in the settings. And we can do data conversions and bring in that data for you if you have if you have variables that you want us to bring in. And when you're done, again, just click OK. It'll drop you back in the order. You can still change these. So if you need to change a price or put in a discount, etc., you can modify that. Note, John here got a 10% discount because of his source key. And we'll look at the customer screen later. You can also assign discounts to customers across the board or for products. The status will show here, like this is a committed item, and you can see when you move over at what CM means. This is a drop ship item. At the product level, which we'll look at later, you can specify when items are drop shipped. And it could be a mix of items you have in your warehouse or drop shipped, etc. So this is a drop ship. This is a drop ship. They're both potentially from the same vendor. Typically, you'll see that in the location, which is right here, and they are. So if I go to the drop ship PO and say create POs, it'll automatically create a drop ship PO that I can then open, edit if I want to. Now let's make that a little bit smaller so we can see the screen behind it, just to make it clear. There's the order screen. Here's the dropship PO. This is saying that it's going to this vendor to fulfill, that you want them to ship it to your customer. You can put any instructions here that you might want. Even though it shows your product number, you can show theirs if they need to see it. That's stored in the product level, and we can push that over, but you get to see yours. And when you're ready, you can print this, you can fax it, you can email it as a PDF, send it to the vendor for them to fulfill. When they do, it will either update automatically at the order level, or you can manually do it. It depends on the drop shipper. You do not even need to use this dropship PO I showed you. We can fully automate that process if you like, so that when you create dropship POs, they can not necessarily PO, but actual orders that come in, and those can also be coming in from channels, so they're automatically drop shipped. We can create POs that go to vendors either as attachments or as a file that gets uploaded to a website or gets FTP'd up to them. And when the drop shipper fulfills it, they can then send a response file that we can automatically download, read in, and then mark these as shipped and record the tracking information, which I'll show you where that goes in a moment. So again, the idea is with particular drop shippers, you may be able to fully automate it. With some that are less sophisticated, you could create a drop ship PO like we just did, wait for them to respond, and then manually come in here and mark them shipped and put in the tracking numbers. So again, The better the drop shipper, the more automated you can make this process, but you have all of that control in the system out of the box for the micromanagement we just saw, and with minimal interaction from us if you want to automate it with a vendor. All right, so that was drop shipping, more of an aside for some folks and very important to others. After we've entered the products, we can come down below, and just as a quick aside, if I highlight a product, I can also get details about it here that we saw on the previous screen. But the next step would be to select a shipping method. You can have a default shipping method that automatically gets selected, and you can change it. So we'll make this UPS ground. One of the things Channergy is very good at is following your business rules. So when we set you up, if you like, we can have business rules that determine the best shipping method. There's limitations on what you can show on the screen. So if you wanted to pop up and compare FedEx and UPS, you're not allowed to do that. However, we can, in the background, automatically compare those, choose a cheaper method that gets there in the same time. If it's in the same zone and the customer wants it next day or second day, probably get there just fine UPS ground. If it's under 13 ounces, maybe you want it to go USPS, etc. This saves your folks from having to look at charts, make decisions, talk with customers. It just automatically selects the best method for you. You can still change that at fulfillment, which we'll cover later in the demo. But if you don't want to fulfill using UPS ground, right on the spot, you could change it to UPS second day or FedEx or whatever you're working with. So again, this is just going to give you the quickest and usually cheapest method, again, depending on what your business rules are. And you can do COD, ship insured, etc. You have some options here that you can select. Ship ahead means that if there's back ordered items here, that we would allow the order to go with the back ordered item. Waiting for another shipment later, or if you uncheck that, it will wait until that item's available. You can set that globally and then override it here, so it's nice to know that you can do that. You can take a payment. There's many payment methods that you can do in Channergy. Credit cards, of course, and we support about 100 different providers. You can go out and get an approval on the fly. In addition, you can do checks, e-checks, COD. We can redeem gift certificates. You can invoice customers or bill them. You can put in PO numbers. We take PayPal. You can do installment payments where they pay over time. A balance would be if they have a credit with you, or if you have a point system and they can use those points to pay, etc. In the case of a credit card, you can choose to store credit cards if you like. You don't have to. You can default it to not store at all. If you do store it, it will encrypt it for PCI compliance purposes, but you can see the first and the last four numbers so you can compare the card with the customer, make sure you're getting the right one. Even though it's encrypted, there will be an authorized button. All you have to do is click it. It'll go out, getting the approval. It takes 2 or 3 seconds, which I'll fake, and that would mark it as paid, and you're done. You can make multiple payments here too. So if you want to do another payment for the balance, which there's 0 on this one, so it's irrelevant, but maybe they have 2 cards, or they're paying cash if they're walking, etc., you can do that. All right, for a basic order, you're done, but there's several other things you can do if you like. If you want to send a note right to the customer that's specific to him, you can type it here. It'll show up wherever you want it, invoice, packing list, etc. You control that. There's also a second notes field, which is here. And you can create notes that you pull down and select if you like. Customers use this different ways with Channergy. Some like to put a question here from the customer and put the answer here. Like maybe this downloads from Amazon, they want to put the answer. Other customers use this to send the response to the customer. Here's an answer to your question or a note, and use this for internal purposes, like on pick lists or work orders, etc. In addition, we store the alternate order number, which would be the order number signed by the channel, maybe the Amazon order number, because Channergy is going to assign a unique ID, but it won't match what the customer saw on the web. So this way you can search by that. That can show up on invoices, emails, etc., and you can use either one or both. There's a second one if you need it. There's an alternate customer ID, which is typically, for example, the email address on eBay, for example. The sales rep would be the person that you would pay for this particular transaction if you do commissions. And that can be set up at the customer level, so it automatically assigns, or you can use the operator that entered it as a recipient of commissions, and this might be a secondary recipient. And there's even a third. You can prioritize orders. You create these, so it's whatever you want. So when we do fulfillment, I'll mention this again later, but this is where a batch called rush might go out the door first, and then other batches will go out as you've designed them to follow that. Terms would be whatever terms you may have set up in the system that you then assign to the customer. And again, you can do it here at the order level, just pre-assign it at the customer level. It'll show up automatically when you build them. So then maybe this guy gets invoiced net 30. Order source, You also create these. It can be anything you want. So it's redundant since we know where it's coming from. For example, we know this is coming from an operator entering it, or if you remember, there was an Amazon or an eBay or whatever other tag you want. So this might be a secondary one if you need it. You can hold an order indefinitely or until a specific date, and on that date you can release the order into the queue. So that's good if you're waiting for a payment to clear, like a PayPal payment, or if you're doing a pre-order or something that you don't want to ship until a certain date. If you have a maximum override required, like a rep can't enter a higher amount than is allowed, then this is where a manager would go in and override and allow that to go out, and it'll mark why. There's 2 unlimited length messages. You can use that for whatever you like, gift cards, on an invoice, packing list, in an email. There's also a shipping message, typically things like leave on back porch, bad dog, that kind of thing. And there's 2 more date fields. If you remember, we had an order date or a hold date field here. That might be when the order is released. If you do things like prepare items on demand, if you're mixing paint or building kits, etc., then you can specify the date that you want it to be delivered, which could be the date you're actually going to create it and the date you're going to ship it on, or the date you want it to arrive by. Everybody's a little bit different, but work orders will then print out on the specific dates. Your folks know what to create, and then the ship method would control when it needs to be mailed or shipped out. And you can have notes on it as well. This is typically notes to your internal folks telling them what to do, etc. Very complex work orders and other reports can be created if you like, and we've got pre-built ones as well. So you've got a lot of flexibility. Notice the order I had put on hold and it marked it here, so we know that it's on hold. Another thing we like to do in the demo at this point is show you our built-in report writer and how it works with an invoice. You could print an invoice here if you want. You typically do that in fulfillment and batch fulfillment, but if you do one here, it will be excluded from batch fulfillment, so you don't fill it twice. So if I wanted to print an invoice, I could just press the F10 key or select it here. And again, this is our default plain paper 8.5 by 11 invoice using the built-in report writer. So you can see what it looks like, but this is fully customizable. You can move things around, put your logo on it, make it fit a pre-printed form, change the size, etc. So extremely flexible. It also has its own built-in query tool. So it looks a lot like Access if you're familiar with that. You can have tables up above, fields down below. You can put filters and prompts on it, etc. So it's a very flexible tool. We'll visit it again later in the demo. Just wanted to give you a quick look at it. We're going to close it here and not save my ugly changes, but we will say it printed correctly so that it gets excluded from fulfillment later. So that's order entry and some of the things that you can do. Most of the time, just as an aside, your folks, when they finish, can click the Finished button. If they don't finish the order for some reason, then click Come Back Later, and it'll track it in that order list we saw before, so they know which ones are finished and which ones are still open. Also in this system is our customer management. It's a separate screen as well, but it's built in the order system. This is where most people use it. So you can look for a customer the same way we did when we were taking an order. So maybe we want to go to John Smith's account. Here he is. He could call or email. We're looking him up. We saw this screen. It's his contact information, but we store quite a bit more. Under additional info, we have 4 price levels per product. So if we wanted to make John a wholesale customer, for example, we could. And that way when we key an order, he'll automatically get wholesale pricing. That won't affect imported orders. They're going to come in exactly the way they were on the web, which is typically what you want. However, we can post-process. So if John here went through the retail portal and bought something, but you want to change it to wholesale pricing, you can. You can also give him a global discount he gets off of everything, as well as a discount off of a product number or a range of product numbers. A different price, a different quantity discount, a different percent discount. You can start and stop that on given dates. So a lot of flexibility. This store credit is either for returns. Maybe you want to put it back in store credit rather than his credit card so he can buy from you with it later. It's also useful for rewards and point systems, etc. We'll convert them to dollars. And then we can send out an email. Hey, you've got $63 to spend in our store. Why don't you go online or give us a call or drop in and come spend it with us. And then you apply it at the order like we did earlier when we were doing a credit card, for example. You're just pulling from the store credit. It's called balance on the pull down. These types are anything you like. We created personal and corporate. They're set up here. And that's for list segmentation. So we'll make John here a corporate customer. We have a built-in email notification, which is good for things like telling customers their order is shipped, drop ship vendors, POs, that kind of thing. What it's not meant for is sales flyers, newsletters, etc. So for that, we have a couple of options. We have an optional HTML email tool, which makes beautiful emails and can specify when they send out, so they don't overtax your server or oversend to things like Amazon, where you don't want to bombard and get banned. In addition, we support things like MailChimp, vertical response, constant contact, etc. You can export out your entire list if you like, or you can use fields like this to filter. So maybe you want to send a different email to your corporate versus your personal customers. You can also filter on any field in Channergy. So you can send out tailored, personalized emails telling them, to reorder consumables, or to remind them it's been a while since they last ordered from you, or to offer them a new product, etc. And in today's world, that's really important to customers. They're used to seeing personalized emails instead of just general blasts that something they're not interested in is on sale. So you have a lot of that control here. You can set up at the customer level what the default pay method is. So maybe we typically invoice John and whatever terms you may have created, which you can do in setup at the order level. Maybe he's a net 30. If you have a sales rep that typically gets commissions, you can assign that. If you remember, we selected all these manually at the order level. So here's where you would preset them, so you don't have to do that. This note's just a quick reminder. There's unlimited length notes as well, which I'll show you in a moment. Pop-up note's more aggressive. Whatever you type here is going to pop up whenever you open the customer's account, try to take an order, that kind of thing. You can't miss it. You have to click OK to get past it. So it's good for things like bad credit, preferred customer. If you have corporate customers that need a PIN number to order from you, have that along with a reminder. You can keep track of an important date like their birthday or whatever makes sense in your industry, and then either email them or send them a gift or a card. We do some minor demographics, including making a customer tax exempt and tracking the ID. So if you key an order, it will automatically not charge them tax. Again, if it comes in from the web with tax, it's going to be there, but we could post-process it if you want to. You can flag an account. So if you say don't send email, for example, we'll respect that internally. We'll also respect that up here in the export we mentioned, so you don't accidentally spam them with your newsletter. When you add a customer, we'll give them a unique ID. You can start that at whatever number you like. It's sequential. We can also build a number out of elements of their name and address, which you can set up in preferences up here. So if you want to build it out of their name and address and have that as either in addition to this number or in lieu of it, you can use either one or both. You can search on either one or both. You can put them on emails and reports, etc. Channergy will keep track of whether you've contacted a customer, they've contacted you, or they've spent money with you. And there's that original key I mentioned that tells you where the customer came from and the date that they were added as well. If you sell vehicles or vehicle parts, etc., we can keep track of the year, make, and model of all the vehicles the customer has. And if you remember at order entry, you can select that, or it can be auto-selected to look at the products they're interested in. If not, you can turn this off so you don't have to look at it. Every order the customer places with you will show up in their order history, regardless of where it came from. So Amazon orders, phone orders, etc. right here. And this is really useful if a customer calls or emails asking about an order. You can find the customer and look quickly through their orders. You can expand an order, see exactly what items they ordered. You can go to an order, just click edit here, it'll take you to it. You can make changes, add items, delete items, charge another charge on a credit card, and then reprint the invoice or send them an email, etc. I did mention earlier, but the finish button can also be tied to an email that goes out to the customer. So when you click it, it says thank you for your order, or we're in process, etc. Or in this case, it may send an email saying here's an update on your order. Maybe they're calling to ask about their order's shipment. Here's the tracking numbers button I mentioned earlier. It would show the tracking number, the charges to you, which you can compare to what you're charging the customer, see if you're making or losing money, the weight, the date, the method, etc. This is also what we use to send up to the channels to let the customers know the order is shipped. So the channel will record it. You can have emails go out to all of them, or just whatever subset you want. Maybe you want to exclude Amazon, for example, and you have it here to reference when you're talking to a customer, so you can tell them that the order shipped and what tracking number or numbers. There's multiple. You'll be able to scroll through them with the arrows here. Once you're done, just click back. It'll jump back to where you were, and you can keep going. Contact log is where you can keep those unlimited length notes I mentioned. So maybe a customer calls to ask about an order. Click on that. Let's just edit that existing one. And either select from the pull down like in this case, order inquiry, or type whatever you want. You create what shows up in this pull down. Again, on every screen you'll see a setup, so you can jump in there to do things like that. And then type as much as you want. Any notes about the phone call, it'll keep track of the operator that entered it and the date. You can also schedule things. Maybe you want to call a customer back. You can assign that to a different operator than yourself, put a date on it. We have a report that pops up on the screen or prints out, breaks by operator ID. It can also email to your operators so they have all their tasks for that day and can go through them and take care of things. And as they go into them, they can close them. They can create new entries, maybe another follow-up, etc. You can also schedule to do things like send a catalog or a birthday card or whatever you typically send out in the mail, or email. This can be an email that goes out to a customer, so you can schedule something that follows up with them if you want something specific. In the case of a catalog, you may want to put a source key on it or any other kind of ad. And then we can print out labels directly from Channergy. You'll have that information on it, or it can create a CSV file that you can send to your vendor that we automatically FTP to them so that they can create your catalog labels. I mentioned email notification a couple of times. They'll show up here. So these are the default plain text emails that we send out, usually saying things like, here's your order shipped in this case. You have it here as a quick reference when you're talking to a customer. It's also in the database, but it's just nice to be able to see it and see the date that it went out and confirm with them. The email notification tool I mentioned earlier, the HTML one that's optional, those will show up here in the attachments tab. They're prettier. They can have your HTML, your logo, etc. But it works the same way. It's just showing up in a different place. Also in attachments, you can put whatever you like at the customer level. Maybe they sent you an email that you want to save, or their logo, or sent you a fax. You can permanently attach it to their account and open it from here. So that's the orders and the customers, which are very tied together. We're going to step next into the inventory screen, where a lot of folks will find to be the heart of the program, and you'll spend most of your time. So to go in inventory, we go to the main menu again, which is always down here under the Channergy Explorer button, by the way, and click on inventory. Notice when I move over it, I have other options as well. But for now, we're just going to click the inventory button. That's the default function, is to open that up. So that'll take us to our first product that we have in inventory. Here, we'll discuss what these fields mean, then we'll talk about how we list them on the various channels. So you have a product number. This can be anything you like, your own product number, UPC code, doesn't matter. I think it's about 150 characters. We have a name field that's easier to read. I believe that's around 250. You can have either one or both of these show up on invoices, packing lists, emails, etc. There's another short description here, also around 250, and then an unlimited length long description. You can put whatever details you want in here. Don't recommend HTML, just plain text is best. We'll talk about listings in a bit and additional fields. The order message is useful to operators that are keying orders because it shows up when you select an individual item. If you remember on the order screen down below, we had that little tab called Item Detail. They'll see a reminder there to do upsells, cross-sells, etc. Maybe it needs batteries, that kind of thing. If you don't do telephone orders, and it's, for you it's just an extra field you can use for whatever you like. You can have a supplier set up on a product, or you can have multiple suppliers. For each supplier, you can keep track of their product number, the price you pay for it, how you buy it, case, each, etc. If there's any minimum quantities you need to meet, any discounts, notes, etc. A breakdown would be how you would break down a case, for example. Maybe that's 12. You can have as many suppliers in here as you like. You can also have the same supplier in here multiple times. Maybe they have different product numbers or different units of measure or prices, etc. Jumping back here, we also have a product type. And we can assign this. It can be one level deep like I have here, or it can be multiple levels. This is a cell phone database. This particular item is an accessory. And that's useful on searches when I'm looking, if you recall, at the order level. If I select accessories from the pull down, it just shows me items that match that. In other words, that are tagged with this. But it's also useful for reports. Maybe you want to see how many accessories you sold on Amazon for a given month, for example. We also talked earlier about subproducts. Those will show up here with a master code. So if this were a t-shirt, the master code would be t-shirt, and then the options would be things like short sleeve, small, medium, V-neck, crew neck, etc. Again, you can look at that subproducts utility in the settings if you want. And if you remember, it's the subproducts tab on the order search. So you just do pull downs. What this does is create pull downs, but each product exists as a unique product with its own UPC code, its own quantities and prices, etc. So you can still manage them as individual products, but sell them as just pull down products to make it easier for your consumers. This is where that unlimited length field is. So again, you could pre-build this if you want, and then edit it at order entry, or if you left it blank, they could type it at order entry, and it shows up under the item on the invoice, on the packing list. It can go in an email, etc. This is where you would create those multiple fields we saw. So I have one preset here. You can create up to 20. You can make your own fields, like I typed one called note with a 20 character length. So very powerful for creating discrete fields. For name and address, we can pull right from fields that we have in the database. For a note or something like that, the operator would key it. And it can be also a checkbox. So it could be text like a note is, or a checkbox if you need to flip a yes or no flag on. There are 4 price levels per product. So if you remember, John's a wholesale customer, he'd automatically get charged $2 for this product. Each one of these can have a quantity discount as well. So, you know, from 5 to 10 on this one gets a different price than the $3.99, maybe $3.50, etc. And quantity discounts can be shared across products that have the same mix and match code. So any other product that has the same code, if they bought 2 of these and 3 of something else, would still get the 5-point break. If you remember the add source keys, the by source key allows you to assign add source keys to specific products. That means instead of applying a discount across the entire order, it would just apply discounts to the products that are added to the order that are on sale or that are able to receive that discount. The price floor would be the lowest price that you would allow your operators to sell an item at if they're allowed to discount at all. So they can't sell below that. You can also at the order level pull down and see the margins. So for your folks that are doing a lot of dickering with customers, they can pull down and see the margin on each item based on what the actual cost of that item was, so that you can make sure you're not cutting too close to the bone. You can make any product tax exempt. It won't be charged tax. You can input a map, which is just there for reference purposes. We don't do anything with it. But it's useful if you're using map with carts where you have to add items to the cart in order to see the price. So you need to know what the map is. We store the weight in decimals. There's a little calculator to help you get used to converting pounds and ounces. Super easy. And we'll push over the weight to your shipping software. If you know your weight, great. We can just print labels right from Channergy. If you don't know your weight, there's multiple ways to handle that. One way is to take the order all the way up to the point where it's packed, and then go to your shipping software, key or scan in the Channergy order number, and it'll be pre-populated with the shipping method, the estimated weight, etc. Weigh it, print it out, the label, and you're done. It'll push back to us again, the tracking number, etc. Another way is in Channergy. When we go into fulfillment, we'll show you how this works. You can weigh packages, print labels right there. They could be separate labels or peel-off labels on an invoice or a packing list, so you don't have to go out to any shipping software at all. And then finally, we can help you learn weights. So especially for single items that go in their own box, we know what the weights are because we've been shipping them, so we can update this for you. And the goal is to automate as much as possible so you don't have to weigh boxes unless you have to. If you have any extra charges that you want to push to your shipping software, maybe it's a heavy or a large item, we can do that. We can track the cost of shipping that item, which is useful for reporting and that sort of thing. Remember, we're getting the total cost at the order level for comparing to your shipping, but this is product level for that purpose. We can calculate and add insurance when you key an order. We can push over hazmat codes. If you have any items like that, we'll push that to your shipping software. We can indicate an item ships in its own box. And if it does, the shipping software will know to pack it separately. We can also put in dimensional weight here. And if we have your factors, we can calculate dimensional weight for you. So if you remember order entry when we're picking the best ship method, that's one of the things we'll consider and tell you which method to use or automatically change the method to that. Stock levels is where you keep track of quantities. If an item, you can mark it as non-inventory. If it's an item you don't worry about, maybe it's something you have thousands of, or maybe it's not a real item like a discount or a message. Marking it non-inventory just means you have an endless supply. You can discontinue an item. If you do that, usually want to say do not allow back orders, so when this gets down to 0, you won't keep trying to sell it. However, we do substitutions as well. So if this is out of stock or gone forever, you can substitute it with something else in your inventory. If that's not available, something else, up to 3. You can either prompt the operator or not when they're keying an order. It's useful to prompt them if it's a similar item and they need to recommend it to the customer, and to not prompt them if it's just an internal order, a product number change they don't need to know about. In addition to being useful during order entry, this is also useful for products that folks order on the web, on your various channels. If an order comes in and an item's out of stock, and it showed on the web it was available, but it turns out to be out of stock, we can automatically generate an email to the customer that says, hey, you ordered this particular product, it's out of stock, we'll have it back in stock on this date. Or you can have this one now. Which would you prefer? So it's a proactive way to let customers know immediately what their options are, so they're not upset that something's back ordered. Okay, let's take those off, and then we'll talk about quantities. You can have a quantity in stock, like 5, or you can use our multiple locations feature, which most folks do. And for that, within locations, you can have as many different locations as you like. Physical locations like warehouses and bin numbers. You set these up again in the setup button. So maybe warehouse 3 bin 10 has 15 in stock, and you want to pull from that first. Another location could be a drop shipper like we have here. In this case, we're just going to assume they have an endless supply, so they're marked non-inventory, but you can uncheck that. And you can either put in a number here, maybe fudge a number, or we can read in feeds. Maybe they give you a daily or an hourly feed. And we can take that number and dumb it down too if you like. So if a vendor's, is a vendor for multiple people and they have 50, maybe you just want to show 10. And then mark it drop ship. And if you remember order entry, those will get marked with a D, so we know they're drop ship, and we can create drop ship POs. You can either do it manually or it can be automated. So again, you can have as many in here as you like. They can have it'll automatically pick up the lot numbers and expiration dates that we take at receive inventory, which I'll show you later. But we'll know what lot number it's sold under and what the expiration date is. Whenever you're finished here, whatever your total is of these will roll up into the total available in stock. And that's going to be the default number we use for your listings, etc. But we'll cover that when we get to those in a little bit. Extra fields are just that. There's a bin number if you don't want to use the number in the multiple locations field. Either one or both of those can show up on pick list, packing list, etc., so your folks know where to pick from. There's 5 custom fields. You can rename these in preferences to whatever you like, so they make sense for your type of business. The first 4 are not searchable, but they do show up during a product search at order entry. So it can show specific information to your reps so they can answer questions, etc., without having to open up a separate screen. If you sell books, we have ISBNs. You can store up to 3 UPC codes for a product. Channergy supports barcoding all throughout the system. You can, if you see a UPC code, or if you make your own product number barcodes, which you can do from receive inventory, so you can make labels, or if the product supplier puts a barcode on there, it doesn't matter which one you scan, we're always going to resolve it back to the Channergy product number. So you typically use that like if you're taking orders from folks that walk in, if you have retail or over the counter, when you're receiving merchandise from vendors, when you're packing items into boxes at fulfillments, etc. That's the most common places. These are redundant. We have them on the supplier screen. If you sell out of the country, we do things like duty percent, preferred currency, etc. You can make items commission or royalty items, and we can calculate and add that for you. If you remember, you can have commissionable folks specified at the customer and the order level. You can have a preferred ship method for a product too, so maybe this always goes UPS ground. Again, at order, if you remember, we can calculate shipping methods. This would be one of the things that we'd look at. That product got added to the order, defaulted it to UPS ground. That's probably the way you want it to go, but we could still override it if you want, or that could be the override. It's up to you. And there's other things you can do. Units of measure would be how this is typically sold, case, each, etc. Backorder messages would be what customers see when this is out of stock. If you're pushing up images to particular channels, then sometimes they want a URL. This is where that would be stored. And I won't save my changes. If you sell automobile parts, etc., need to track VIN numbers, we can do that and retrieve and track titles and give it to customers. You can serialize inventory. Just mark it as a serialized item. And then when you sell the item, you can collect the serial number as you pack it, or you can pull it from a cage if it's a pre-built group that we did that you do at receive inventory. So everybody's a little bit different. We'll try to touch on that a little bit later. But the most common way is simply when you fill it to scan or key in the serial number. At that point, you know what went out to the customer, and if they send it back for return or exchange, you can verify it's the same one you sent out. You can make any product a gift certificate. And you can build a prefix, a suffix, and a random code length and type. And what that means is when you sell that product, maybe you call it gift certificate, for whatever value, it will automatically create the code. Channergy will keep track of that code when it's been redeemed in part or in full. With certain channels too, we can coordinate promo codes so that we know that they used it on the channel and could deduct it from the gift certificate that you have stored in Channergy. You can also make any item a subscription item. And that means that maybe they buy it, pay for it once a year, and they get a weekly subscription or a monthly, etc. It's a little bit different than a recurring order, which we can also create, which would be an order that comes out, say, every month. Maybe it's the same as last time, a consumable, or maybe it's a book of the month or a cigar of the month. Whereas a subscription is something you renew every year or every period. Subscriptions can also do things like have emails that remind them, hey, it's time to renew. Hey, you missed the renewal. Here's one more. Okay, you're canceled, etc. So we help you set that up when we implement the program for you. Now you can make any item a pre-order item. So if you want to, maybe you sell DVDs before they come out, for example. And then this is that company override. We saw order entry, so maybe this comes out of core. So when you add this item to the order, automatically changes it to the core company. That's one of the ways to make that happen. You can specify when it's time to reorder. Maybe when I get down to 50, I want to order 150 more. What price I want to pay for it. We'll talk about that when we create a PO in a little bit. We'll let you know how many on order and back order you have and what dates to expect them as well. Your operators can see this during order entry. Emails can see it, like the substitution email. PO creations based on that. We know we've got 11 coming, so that would be included in the count that you have in stock. So you really have 31 plus this 10, 41, either in stock or on its way. We're still below the 50, so it's time to order more, but that's part of the calculation. Channergy will store either a standard cost, which is for cost of goods sold, cost of goods in stock, etc. So it's just a flat rate that you assign, and or an average cost. And that's a weighted average that we determine as you receive inventory. So if you get 100 at $1, your average is $1. If you get another 100 at $2, your average is $1.50. And then, of course, as you sell off the $1 ones, it creeps back up towards the $2 mark. Channergy also works with accounting packages, the most common one being Quickbooks, but we do others. The Quickbooks export includes sales, so we'll push out the items sold, the amount they sold for, what quantities, what invoice number it went out on, the sales tax, and the shipping. We'll also create an accounts payable, what we push out. So we'll push the vendor out, the amount that you owe them. We'll create the vendor if they're already in QuickBooks. And that way your accountant or bookkeeper has everything they need to cut checks, run reports, etc. But all that plus a lot more information is in Channergy. So you can run very detailed reports in here, like how much you sold on a given channel or of a different product, etc. If you sell kits, products made up of other products, we call those assemblies. So if this is a kit item with a price, it can be made up of items in your inventory that are built on the fly. So in other words, maybe we take one of these, and it's also made up of, say, maybe 2 of these, etc. And for each one, you can either use the current price and add it to it. So whatever the price is of this, it will add up to, on top of that $3.99. Or you can put a flat price, or you can just zero it out and it won't add to it. You can do that for each of the 4 price levels that we have. You can put a discount on it. As you're building it, we'll tell you how much it costs you to make it, and then you can figure out what you want to charge for it on the total charge for the kit. And then check this box to make this kit. If you don't check this, when this gets added to an order, these just get added as separate items, which is a nice feature. Maybe you want to do that for free gifts or accessories that you automatically add, or maybe it's for box and packing materials. You can have it added that way. And those, by the way, can be hidden on the invoice or the packing list, but it's useful for pick lists and for other reports. But when you check this box, what happens is when you add this product to the order, these show indented underneath it, so you know that they're kit items. And they can be changed. You can delete them. You can change them. And then you can also hide them or show them on the screen and on reports. So you would typically show them on, say, a pick list or a work order, but hide them on the packing list or the invoice going to the customer or the email. This is for a kit built on the fly. So it would be the total available of this would be determined on the least number of these. So if you have 1 of these and 200 of these, you still only have 1 to sell, because once you sell that 1, it's 0. You can sell the kit beyond that if you want to. It'll just back order those individual items. For kits that you build and have on the shelf, you wouldn't use assemblies. You would just create those as separate products. These are for on the fly, so you can do either one or both. We saw suppliers already, attachments. We saw at order entry, but just to visit it again, you can have images and they'll show up right up in the interface. So I'll just add this for fun. And you can have anything else you want, Word docs, PDF docs, web pages, etc., and those will all open up in their native program. And for those of you who sell automobiles, you can indicate our automobile parts. You can indicate year, make, model, etc. And you can also identify that at the customer level like we saw. So that's how a product exists in Channergy. The next step is getting it on channels like Amazon, eBay, etc. And that starts up here under Tools and Preferences. And here you go to the Channels tab and select a channel that you're subscribed to with us. Amazon's a common one. You can create as many accounts as you like, and then you can go into the account and then put in your credentials and indicate whether you want to upload products, upload shipping confirmations, download orders, and what interval you want to do that at, maybe every 15 minutes. You can also tag those orders as they come down. So remember we had a tag that we created earlier. We're going to assign Amazon orders here. You also typically want to commit on import. And I'll explain how that works in a minute. Once you've set this up, it'll put a tab on the product screen like we already have. So if we go into the Amazon tab for this particular product, we can have as many listings as we like. So if I wanted to create another listing, I'll do it manually. Again, anything in Channergy that I'm doing manually, we can typically do an automation on. As an aside, we have something called Channergy scripts. Channergy uses a SQL compliant database. SQL scripts can run against it and do very powerful things. Simple things like import or export data, product changes. Maybe we want to do a product line increase of 5% for a particular product, or maybe a product has a specific vendor or a prefix on it, or maybe we want to take our cost and add a margin to it and put complex calculations. All of that can be done across the board. We give you those tools. SQL is an easy, high-level language. It's better than a GUI interface where you're limited to pull downs and only what the provider, us, the software developer, can give you. There's no limits on SQL. Kids in college can do SQL. They're inexpensive. We do SQL scripts for you. We have a library of them. When we implement you, we'll do quite a bit. So it gives great extensibility to the software, far below the cost of development, which we also offer. So if you need that, let us know. And you can do it yourself or hire inexpensive help to do it. So tremendous amount of potential. And I mention it now so that you know that it exists, but also so you can understand that what we're about to do, you do not have to do manually at a listing by listing level. You can use existing scripts, or we can modify those or create ones that you need. So if I wanted to add a listing manually, I click the Add Listing feature or button here. Choose what account I want to do it under. And then I can use the existing SKU on the product, or I could override that and put a different SKU, which is kind of common on Amazon. They often have the multiple SKUs for the same product. For Amazon, I need an ASIN. Every channel is a little bit different. There's multiple ways to get the ASIN. When we first set you up, we can bring in your ASINs from your Amazon channel for you. So we'll create the product, we'll put the individual listings underneath it, and they'll already have the ASINs. As you create new products, you can either key them in, like we were doing here earlier, or you can import them from a file. And then we can automatically, again, create listings, or you could do it manually like we're doing here. In the case of Amazon, it usually is matched on UPC code. There's other ways, but that's the most common way. We can either export out a file or just push it straight to Amazon, up to you, and match to an existing product that Amazon already has, or create a new one if it doesn't exist. Again, there's other ways. You may be UPC exempt. You may have other, like a SKU that you work from, but this would be the default behavior. And that will bring back the ASINs so that we can list under it. And when we create a listing, we're going to use fields like the ones we used here to create the product. However, another great feature in Channergy is you can create your own fields, your own tables and fields. There's a tool for that. It looks like an Excel spreadsheet. So if you wanted to have different descriptions or names, etc., for listings on different channels, you can create those, and we'll push those your choice. So a great extensibility there as well. You can also then use the existing retail price to list this, or you can override that. Maybe you want to make this a little bit cheaper on Amazon or higher, whatever your choice is. We also support third-party repricers, AppEagle, Wiser, Channel Max. There's a bunch of them. For most of them, if you put a code here, we'll just let them reprice. In the case of Channel Max, which we integrate with, you can go there and make rules-based changes. I want to beat my competitor by a penny. I do or I don't want to cut into shipping, etc. And you'll get codes for that. And those codes can be assigned to that field. And then what we'll do is instead of uploading this price, we'll upload whatever Channel Max creates or calculates. Another neat trick is you can turn this off. Again, you can do it in mass. Say at night and then put it back in the morning and let your competitor's price creep up, and then you can undercut them for an hour or two before they catch up with you. The in stock would be the total number in stocks. If you remember, we had a couple locations, total of 20, but you can also override that. Maybe you want to put less there. Maybe it's a hot selling item or it's discontinued. Again, that can be automated. We could do a percentage of what your vendors have, or when it gets down to 5, we could zero it out, or whatever your tolerance is. So that can be controlled. But if you remember that commit on import I mentioned earlier when we were setting it up, that makes using the current in-stock quantity a pretty safe bet and the best way to go for most of your listings, because we're doing what we call near real-time updating. Let's say you have 10 items in stock. You sell 2 on Amazon and 1 on eBay. You now have 7. We'll turn around and push 7 up to all the channels to keep them in sync. And in most cases, we're doing that in 15 minutes to an hour, depending on the channel. So it's very close to real time. It's unlikely you'll get no backorder status. If you do, we have, remember, things like substitutions, etc. But if it's a hot item, you might want to control it manually. So you have the option of doing it either way, and it can be on a listing by listing basis. Continuing on with Amazon, we support sale pricing, so you can have a different price with the start and stop date. You can have a different lead time to ship. That's particularly handy if you have items that you're shipping from a vendor or somewhere, and it goes up to 21 days. So whatever your agreement is with Amazon or whatever that you set up at the listing as. The default's normally 2 days, so if you need longer. The launch date would be the date that this listing appears, and that's handy too if you want to create a listing on Amazon, but you want time to check it to make sure your UPC code matches the listing on Channergy for the right kind of product before you release it. We support gift wrap options. Any item can be an FBA item, which means it's fulfilled by Amazon. We also have an entire Amazon FBA channel, so it would show up here as an FBA tab at the top, like we have Amazon, eBay, etc. And that does a few things. First of all, it will track how many Amazon says it has, and we'll do that every 15 minutes or so. We also know how many orders you get in, because we'll import those in, and we know how many you push out to Amazon if you use us to create a PO, which you should. We'll create a file that you can then finish the PO with on the Amazon portal, so they can tell you where the labels go. And the important thing about that is we now know what's coming in, what's going out, and what Amazon says, so we can check against that and make sure it's accurate. So if you had 100 and you got orders for 10, you're down to 90, and you sent Amazon another 10, they should show 100. If they show 99, then automatically you can just request your credit. Pop out an email from us or print out a report or however you like to do it, but let them know what they should be showing. And then if you don't do an Amazon FBA tab, you can still make a listing, an FBA listing. So if you're still pushing items there, you don't want to track that, all that, you can. If you sell used items, we have condition codes and notes. And then when you save that, that becomes a listing ready to go up. And here's what happens. We have a product that comes with Channergy called our Multi-Channel Manager, or MCM. On your server, or if we're hosting at our server, it runs down in your system tray. And it does several things. It will download orders. They'll come into the system ready to process, just like the order that we typed earlier in the demo, except they're automatically coming in. We'll also push up new listings and create them. We do have a full listing module on eBay with every possible field. We push up for all the major marketplaces and for a host of various web stores like Shopify, BigCommerce. There's a long list. We also will keep those updated. So price changes, quantity changes, again, we'll push that up in near real time. And finally, we'll push up shipping confirmations. So tracking numbers. And also, if you like, we can email the customer and say, hey, your order is shipped. And that can be selective. You know, maybe you want to do it for everybody except for Amazon, for example. So that all runs in the background 24/7. You don't have to do anything, but there are buttons you can press if you want to make it happen right away. So that's how a product exists in Channergy and how we list it on the various channels. Let's move over to creating purchase orders. So if we go to inventory and come down here to purchase orders, we can create a new one manually. Just click new to start a new session. And then if you like, you can run a report that tells you what you need to order. For example, we have a products to reorder report that's standard with Channergy. A lot of folks modify this. Maybe you want to show your sales for the last 3 months, that sort of thing. Just let us know. That's an easy thing to add. But the most basic one tells you, I have 20 in stock and it's time to order more, 150. So it's telling me to order from cell phones, etc. 150 of these. Very basic. I can take this report and move it to another screen. If I don't have another screen, I can minimize it and then bring it back if I need to. It's right here, and refer to it as I'm creating an order. So again, this is just one item from one vendor, but that's easy for a demo. All we have to do then is either key it or press the F2 key here to bring up the search. It looks just like the order search we saw earlier. And make sure that you're showing your item in the list. So here it is, BB 00007. I want to add that to the purchase order, but I want to do 150 because that's what the report tells me to add. And then maybe I want to add some more items too. So I'll just pop in a couple for comparison's sake. And again, you can right-click these and get details on them just like we did in order entry. When you're done, you can come back here and make changes. Maybe I don't agree with the report. Maybe I think I need 200 of these. It will pick up my actual cost, which in the demo is 0, but whatever your cost is. You can also put in a discount either across the board or on the item level or both. So maybe you get a 10% discount for everything here. And on this particular one, I'll get an extra 15%. You can indicate any messages, FOB instructions, specify your required date, specify your expected date, which is typically going to be the same. We'll update that expected date at the item level, and that's what shows up. If you remember on the product screen, your operators can see it, emails can see it. That's the date that we're expecting that product to come in, indicating any terms you may have, and you're done. Now, I just manually created a PO, but we can automatically create a PO, again, based on your business rules. It's an existing script we just modify. So it would look at the same kind of data that you would. Maybe it's Christmas and I want to order for, like I did last Christmas, plus 10%. Or maybe I want to look at the sales for the last 3 months and use that to extrapolate what I want to order. Whatever your business rules are, it would just automatically create a PO that looks just like this, and then you can edit it, make changes, look at the report with the data that we use to come up with the same thing, and use that to make decisions. Once you're done, once you're happy with your PO, you can print it, you can fax it, you can email it as a PDF. It'll go straight to the vendor and they will fulfill it. When they do, you want to go to receive inventory. And so if we pop back here to the menu, under inventory, we go to receive inventory. And here we'll start a new session, choose the vendor we're receiving from, and then we can choose one or more POs to receive. I'm just going to receive that one I just created, but I could receive multiples if I want to. I can also receive the same one multiple times. Maybe they send a partial shipment, for example. Channergy will remember what you ordered, and if you like, you can click Receive All, and it will remember how many I've left to receive, which in this case is all of them. It's the first time. But maybe I want to change this. Maybe one was broken, so I got one less. Or maybe they force ship me an item. I could add that here. I can change the price I pay for it, the cost that I have associated with it. Here's my discount, for example. So this particular product is 0, so it's not too exciting. But if I get a 15% discount off $100, obviously it would show 85. Excuse me. If you have lot numbers or expiration dates you need to collect at this time, you can. You can also do serial numbers. So if you receive serial numbers up front and you like to say cage expensive products, for example, that would be a case where you'd want to record the serial numbers here, key them or scan them in. If you don't need to do that, then don't bother. When you fulfill orders, and we'll show you that later in the demo, at the point that you put it in the order, you can scan or key on the serial number so you know it went to the customer. So you have options either way. You can put in any shipping, tax, or adjustments here. So let's put in some shipping. Maybe the tax was this, and that one broken item, well, it was 0, but we'll say it's worth $5, so we have a $5 credit. What Channergy will do with this data is evenly distribute or weighted average distributed across these products. So the cost will be whatever your cost is plus its percentage of that. And we'll store that at the item level. And then when you sell that, it's a first in, first out. So we know the cost of the item as it sells. So your margins may change. If you paid $5 for it this month and next month you paid $6, as you sell off the $5 ones, your margin's better than when you get to the $6. And if you also recall, we'll do a weighted average at the product level. So we know that as well. So you have all that data. Another important point here is that these particular products are going to receive into their default location. So if you remember the multiple locations at the product level, there's a first, second, and third, etc. The first one is their default. You can override that. So maybe you want to receive these instead of their default. Maybe you're going to receive it to a warehouse 3, bin 10. And maybe we just want to receive the first 50 there. You can do another pass for the other 149 if you want to a different location. But this way you can receive to staging areas, loading docks, different warehouses, different retail stores, etc. Also, if you receive an invoice from your vendor at this time or later, you can come back and put in your invoice number and your date. That'll trigger the export out to Quickbooks so that the vendor is created and the accounts payable is created, and your accountant or bookkeeper can pay for your product. When you're done, you click Apply to Inventory, and at that point, we'll update all these quantities. We'll start pushing it up to your channels so that you can start fulfilling orders. It's also a place where a lot of folks like to fill back orders, so it's a good place for me to segue over to our batch fulfillment, which is what we call shipping. This is process orders, and here you go to the Fill Back Orders tab, refresh the list, and it will show you all your orders currently in back order status. Just click Fill. We'll start with the oldest order, work to the newest, fill as many as we can, and release them into the queue. As an aside, you can do batches and priorities here, so if you want to fill things out of date sequence, you can, but the default behavior is usually what folks do, is filling the oldest orders first. They will then go to the next step, which is process payment. So if they still owe you money, you can charge them here. After that, or if they had already paid, they'll move over to the invoicing tab and join all your other orders that are currently in process of being filled. Now, this screen is designed to be super simple. You don't want your pickers or packers to have to think about this, but it can be set up so that it's very detailed in how it presents data. For example, if you wanted to print all your Amazon single line items first and ship those out the door and get those done, that would just simply be the first batch that goes through. It can be automated, or you can have your folks select like 1, 2, 3, or whatever you want to name them. If you remember the preferred and rush, we saw order entry. But you can have multiple batches here. And that means that your folks don't do much more than select a pull down and then print whatever you want them to print. Invoices, pick lists, packing lists. I have an invoice set up here, so we'll use that. When I click that, and let's see, I have it minimized. Then it will create an invoice for every checked item in the list. So now I can scroll through them. Unlike the order screen we saw earlier, I have one for each one. And any of this can be barcoded. So the order number can be barcoded, items can be barcoded. Typically the order number is barcoded for folks that like to go to their shipping software and print from there just by scanning the order number. In this case, I'm going to pack from the invoice, and then I am either going to do what I just mentioned, print out a label from my shipping software, or I could print out labels in batch and just slap them on as I pack them up. And then these will move over to the shipping tab. Here, at the end of the day, when you refresh this list, there should be nothing left. If there is, go out on the floor, pack it up, and get it out the door. This way you cannot under or over ship. Jumping back here, that was one method to fulfill. Another one we have is called box scanning. And with that, I can start a new order and say scan the order number, which I'll key, because I don't have a scanner, and then scan items into the boxes as I go. This particular one has just one item left, but if I had multiples, I could start new boxes. I could weigh the boxes as I go, print labels or print invoices or packing lists with peel-off labels, whatever your process is. Now, the advantage here is you cannot under or overpack a box, and you can't put the wrong items into the box. So you're ensuring that your folks are putting exactly what belongs in the system into the box when it goes out. It's also where you would collect serial numbers, like we mentioned earlier, so you could scan or key them as you add it, so that you know that the folks that are sending items back for returns, etc., are sending the one you sent them. And when you're done, these will also move over to the shipping tab, just like we did with the other ones. So using this system, again, is very basic, very simple, but can be very complex in the background. You can set that up with implementation. You can change it down the line. Your pickers and packers don't have to think. You can get your important orders out the door first, and maybe more complex orders at the end where you have to do some more micromanagement. And it doesn't allow you to under or over ship or miss any items. Jumping back to receive inventory, I mentioned a lot of folks like to fill back orders. I have a nice shortcut here called cross-docking. And with that, instead of receiving items, putting them on the shelf, then turn around, picking them and fulfilling them, you can just receive them directly into customer orders. Refresh the list. It tells you what to pack. You can ship it right out the door. Save yourself all those steps. All right, one last thing in this area is called adjust inventory, and that's for taking inventory on the floor, either full counts or cycle counts. You can refresh this list with everything like we have here, or you can filter on specific fields and do cycle counts, or you can clear the list and just key or scan product numbers as you count them. You can also go out on the floor with a scanner, scan a barcode or key in the product number if you don't have barcodes, and key or scan in the quantity, and then come back here and load it up and just plug it in, and we'll load it up with the product numbers that you counted and the quantities that you put in. And you can refer to these quantities and see what your current number in stock is, whether you have any missing or breakage or theft, etc. When you're ready, the point you're ready to update your quantities, you click update, and then we'll change all the quantities in stock. So it's a good way to take inventory on the floor. All right, getting near the end of the demo here. We've covered quite a bit. One of the things we haven't gone is through some of the miscellaneous stuff that folks need. Some of the bigger things are security. So if you go into Operator ID, this is where you create your users. So if you remember Joe and Carla from our demo, it's also where you create things like Amazon and eBay, so tags for your orders coming in. When you go into an individual user, you put in their name, whatever other contact information you want, their password, and then you can either limit them to their own customers and orders, or you can limit them to a group or give them access to everybody. If you're doing multiple companies, you can set up what company they're associated with. That's another way to auto-select what company gets added at order entry. If they get a commission, you can specify that. Channergy has a point of sale system. We're not going to cover this in this demo, so we recommend you go visit the point of sale demo and check it out. But this is where you would specify what invoice gets selected, i.e. what receipt. It can also be used as an invoice that gets sent out or emailed or printed. So if you want to have different designed invoices by company or by operator, you can. Now, going into the individual screens in Channergy, you can specify whether this user has no access, read-only access, or full. So an order operator really only needs full access to the order screen. That will also give them customers and read-only of the product screen. A sys administrator would need everything. Several screens you can control, including preferences, which again is something you would want to give just to your system administrator, because then they can do more granular control, like whether folks can change the operator ID on an order or edit the payment after it's entered, that kind of thing. Once you've set up all your users, or at least on the first pass set up your users that you're going to be using today, you can always add more later. You can also inactivate people as they leave so they're still in the system. But once you're ready, you click activate. At that point, when you use the system after that, it will prompt you to select your operator ID, put in your password, and of course it will limit you to whatever your security allows. All right, there's other things that are relevant to most folks here that we'll cover, but you can see there's several items here. So we'll go over the ones that are most commonly used. All of these are covered in help, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, so you can go check those out and see the details on them. Email notifications we mentioned a couple of times. We have several pre-built. You can make your own just by copying these. This is an invoice, for example. This is your ISP information. So however you want to send this out, you'd put in your ISP information, and then you can design the email if you want. If you like SQL, this is an example of what SQL looks like. If you want to use a more visual interface, then we have the same editor that's in the report writer, which we'll be visiting in more detail a little bit here shortly. But it's a nice visual GUI interface. And then you can edit your message. So, dear first name, thank you for your order number so-and-so. These are the items they ordered, etc. Looks just like the email we saw in the customer contact log earlier in the demo. As a matter of fact, this is where you'd specify that. And to send it, you just click the send button. They'll go out en masse. Again, we also have an HTML tool. We recommend you check that out. It works just like this, but has some nice timing features and some other good stuff. You can use either one or both. So they can be exclusive if you want to have plain text emails go out for notifications and pretty emails go out for sales flyers, for example. We'll keep track of any bounces so that you can follow up with those customers with phone calls or however else you might do that. Also in this area, we have sales tax. So if you want to set up sales tax for various areas, within these areas you can have a different % discount. You can also charge tax on shipping. We can do it based on the country and the state, or down to the zip code or the zip code prefix. So maybe in a certain area it has this much. There might be a report code that you want to use for reporting purposes. This might be Colorado 803, for example. This is the most basic way to set up sales tax, and it works for most folks. We can do sales tax down to the street level if you need it, working with your database or working with services like Alvara, etc. So if you need that, let us know. But this is the most common and easiest way to do it. We also have in this area the source keys that we talked about. So if you want to create a source key, put in your costs associated with it so we can let you know if you're making or losing money, and then create logic for it. So in this case, we have a 10% discount. We also have another 10% discount. So let's change that because that doesn't make sense. So maybe in addition to the 10% discount, they get a free gift. And that free gift is product number that. And they have to spend $2,000. It starts and stops on given dates, and it only applies to the first 100 orders. You can have as many of these as you want built in as logic. And then you can also do, if you remember, at the product level, add source keys and tie them back to the individual product. So if I call this particular one A1, and then I put it at the add source key at the product level, it just applied to those particular products. If I put it here as just a general source key without limiting it down, and you could check all this out in help. I'm doing a general overview. Then it would give a 10% discount and a free gift to anybody, whatever product they ordered, because it's not limiting it. So the short of it is you can do some very complex discounts using these individual criteria and source keys. We talked about subproducts, which are here, and that's for quickly creating size and color. This is in help. I'm not going to go over it here just because it would take several minutes and unnecessary for most folks. The short of it is you can create unlimited size and color options and create thousands of products at a time using this utility. And I think for most folks, those are the big things that, two more actually. Suppliers, it would be where you create your suppliers. So the supplier contact information, and your carrier, if you want them to use your carrier, like maybe they use your FedEx carrier to ship with, your terms with them, etc. Self-explanatory in most of these fields. Any notes you want to put, so if there's something we don't cover, you've got plenty of space for that. And then Channergy will keep track of what products and purchase orders you have with that vendor. You can add and edit them from here. And then finally on the screen would be the shipping methods. So you can, first of all, it's important to note that shipping methods on your channels are just going to come in the way they are on the channels. We do need to match them. So if you have a name of a shipping method on your web store, we'd create a matching name here. But those orders are going to come in with whatever was calculated on the web store. These shipping methods are typically used for phone orders. So if I wanted to create one for UPS Ground, for example, I could call it whatever I want and then put in the actual carrier and service, and then indicate flat charges like per item, per order, percent of order, etc. Or I could do a by order total, $5 to $10 gets this, etc. Or by weight, 1 to 2 pounds gets that. Or I can load in my rates and zone charts. We typically do that for you. And then we'll calculate the rate based on what zone they're in. And you can either make the charge the same as the cost, or you can pad it. We recommend making it the same because these stack. So if your charge or your cost is $5, your charge is $5, but you have a flat charge of $1 per item and they bought 2 items, their charge will be $7. Or if you want to put a per order charge there, maybe there's a fuel surcharge that you want to add on, etc. And then when you select the shipping method or order entry, it will charge according to your logic, whatever that total is for purposes of quoting the customer and getting it out the door. So those are some of the miscellaneous items. Again, there's more here. You can get more about it in help, but that's what we wanted to touch on in the demo. Moving over to the report center. Channergy comes with about 100 different reports. You can run those just by clicking on them. You can get details over here about the report. It'll tell you all about it, show you a thumbnail. If you're really bored one night, you can scroll through them all and see all our hard work. You can also search for a report if you need to find a specific style of report or method. We have other reports in our libraries that you can get, but these cover most things. You can scroll through the different categories, or you can jump down to a specific category. There's also custom reports, meaning that any reports that you create will automatically show up in this list. You can run those just by clicking on them. You can group reports together. You can schedule them to run automatically at night, show up on your screen or in a printout in the morning. You can have reports emailed to you, so they're just sitting in your inbox in the morning. So again, it's a great tool. We really strongly recommend it. Help will tell you how to use a report writer, how to use our reports to modify them to make your own or create your own from scratch, how to put filters and prompts on it. So a strongly recommended tool. We get a lot of great feedback on it. This in conjunction with the script tool and the database editor gives you extreme flexibility with the system, scalability for every folks from kitchen tables to operations running 30 or 50 or 100 operators on the floor. So we have folks from all walks of life using our system. And then finally, help will tell you how to use the program. We have extensive help files online. I really recommend you go check those out for anything that you might be stuck on. There's also videos that walk you through various things. We have videos that show you general overviews. We have detailed videos that are tutorials, which is where this will take you, that show you how to do specific things. So that answers most questions. There's also a support forum. You can ask questions of us and other users. And if all of that doesn't cover it, you can contact us. We have free email support for current customers. We also have paid phone support, which we sell in 5-hour blocks. And you can find all this stuff on our shop. We have an online shop that you can visit. You just click the shop link here. We sell Channergy there, of course. We have a hosting option. We have scripts and reports that may not be included. They're specialized. You can order custom reports and scripts. So there's a tremendous amount of flexibility there as well. So that is the general overview of Channergy. We recommend that you go through the demo and play with it, do your due diligence. If you have any questions, please contact us. We're happy to help. Our support is all based out of Boulder, Colorado. All our folks know our software very well. You're not going to talk to any third parties or outsourced companies. One disclaimer, this demo was made at a certain point in time, so things do change. If you go to our website and visit on the products listing up at the top, the menu item, you'll see what's new. You can see all our revisions going back 20 years. So there's a lot of details out there about what was added, what it does, etc. If you have any questions, you can, from our website, reach us as well. That's the Channergy demo. We look forward to serving you. And again, please contact us if we can help.